Such desperate times led to desperate measures. While brave souls did their best to fight back, and a few pockets of resistance yet kept the occupiers at bay, without a remarkable turn of fate, the occupiers' hold on Imran would grow to be unbreakable, and even the gods became concerned at that. Morrow looked into the future to seek a way forward. He witnessed that if the orgoth were not stopped, it would lead to the extinction of both his and the Ma's respective faiths as widespread death eradicated their worshippers. No matter which thread of fate he explored, Morrow saw no way to prevent this outcome. The Ma would be the one to find a solution. She foresaw that the Emeries needed powerful new weapons, abilities long denied them, the power to change reality by force of will. Such magic was practiced by the other races, but denied humanity by Menoth. Such a change would require difficult and arduous rites, where even the full extent of the Ma's power and knowledge were inadequate. She saw at once that she would require outside aid. To test the worthiness of her plan, the Ma spoke of her ideals to her brother, who looked again into the future. He saw now one path with a ray of hope, dark as it may be, and rife with terrible consequences. He considered that the Ma should proceed, that they must secure magic for humanity at all costs. To forestall one doom, they might need to embrace another. Knowing the elves had been specially endowed with power, and that their gods had come to Cain to be amongst them, the Ma instructed her chosen to approach the highest priests of Ios with a request for knowledge. She hoped to arrange a meeting of divinities between herself and their gods. What she did not yet know was that the elven gods had already left Ios, seeking a way to return to the Veld. Embittered by the absence of their gods and terrified of outsiders, the elves refused and insulted the envoys of the Dark Goddess. They did not share even the smallest fragments of their knowledge. The Ma considered this an inexcusable affront, but remained convinced that the important lore that might be gained from the divine court might yet be found. She sent Thamarite spies to steal Iosan lore. In this way, she discovered scraps of heretical and forgotten teachings from ancient Liosan sects, with veiled references to the threat of beings beyond Yurkane. She read about the construction of the Bridge of Worlds and the Great Cataclysm. The Ma pieced together this puzzle, combining it with lore she had already unearthed on the non-Caridian order, and discerned that the infernal shadow behind the acts of the Iosian gods. This information confirmed a course of action she had already predicted would be necessary. Even before the elves refused her, she considered turning to the Infernals to solve her dilemma, knowing, as she did, that they had proven the ability to empower mortals, having done so with her first scions before her ascension. The Ma made contact with a powerful executor, a being of the non-Caridian hierarchy, a being some known as Telkarian, the Sounder at the Gates. Bringing her first scion to assist her in the negotiations, the Ma set out to seal a contract with these beings. The Nano-Korean order expressed its willingness to grant the Ma's request, though it would not be easy or simply done for them. It would involve a tremendous outpouring of energy and a ritual of complexity beyond even divine reckoning, and this would require a commiserate payment. Certain that she had deduced the desires of these beings, the Ma offered as payment assistance in locating the very gods that had once escaped their infernal grasp. As great as this offer was, Teldo Kareem demanded more. For the ritual to be complete, he would need a vast harvest of souls, though the full payment could be deferred. In some distant future, the Nano-Korean order would come for the claiming, during which no less than 2/3 of human souls would be theirs. By deferring the payment, Maurician humans could recover from the orgoth, spread and multiply, thus escaping the total scope of the claiming. The leaders of the Nono-Carenian Order knew that such an arrangement would ensure their ultimate supremacy over all of their rivals, particularly the Felgoeth. The Mar did not hesitate to agree. As great as this price was, it held only the only possible hope for a future. There had never been a more self-assured or confident being than the Mar. So convinced was she of her own infinite potential. Given the claiming would be deferred, the Mar felt certain that she and her brother together could find a way to evade paying this cost. No binding, however strong, could hold her, or so she thought. She included in the contract the stipulation that those who were truly devoted to her and her scions would be shielded from the direct infernal interference. She foresaw her worshippers rising to be leaders of those who would survive the claiming, should it ever come to pass. The goddess and the infernal executor forged their pact. Within a generation, the first human sorcerers would rise from the enslaved populations, and the infernals turned to their mortal followers on Cain to hunt down the elusive elven gods. 10 years after the bargain was made, disaster struck Ios. The riveting caused priests of nearly all the fanes to go simultaneously insane, seen by many as a sign that some great tragedy had occurred to the divine court. 3 short years later, the first human to display the gift of magic was discovered, evidence that both the Mar and the Nono-Carenian Order had upheld their end of their bargain. What befell the divine court? That story is full of tragedy and pain.